Good morning. Good morning. I'm Reverend Karen Lewis. I'm one of your senior ministers here, and I'm so glad to be back here in the sanctuary with these beloveds who are in service here today, and with all of you who have given of your time on this Valentine's Day to be here, to experience love, to go on a little adventure of love with all of us. And before I start my talk, I would like to acknowledge this day because, as Karen so wonderfully shared with us, it is 32 years today that a group of beloveds came together and signed the charter with Centers for Spiritual Living Now. And I want to bring into that moment of celebration and gratitude all of the beloved senior ministers who have served this community. Of course, it started with Reverend Joyce Murphy, and then Reverend Dr. Michelle Medrano came to be the spiritual leader here, followed by Reverend Sally Robbins, and then Reverend Dr. Penny Macy. And then, for 2 years now, Reverend Leslie Goodwin and myself are the senior ministers. And I want to, yes! And I want to include in this celebration and appreciation every beloved that has ever walked through these doors, every beloved that has ever given of themselves in service, of their time, of their treasures to this center. It is because of each and every one that we are here today. So thank you. Oh, and I said to Karen before the service, we don't need the tissues up here. I'm not going to cry today. So here we are. Here we are. Everything today is pointing to this day. It is the 14th of February, and all over the world, people are celebrating love. They are celebrating this all-inclusive experience that is everywhere present. And if you were part of the pre-service meditation, you heard practitioner Ron Trunnell say, he read a reading from Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, and he said, love is that which cannot be put into words. And I went like, oh, thank you, because we can't. We cannot put it into words. And yes, today and next week, we are going to go on a journey to see how we can approach this experience of love. And today we are going to turn to the authority of a lot of things, 5- and 6-year-old kids. We're going to hear from them what they think love is. And then we're going to walk a little bit with our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. Towards his end of his life in 1958, he recorded a couple of interviews with a beloved, and she wrote a beautiful essay that I want to share about love. And then we are going to turn to the ancient Greek and find out how they defined love. And you will be interested to hear that they actually have more than one word to describe love. They have 8. So we're going to walk through those together. And then at the very end, we are going to engage in a sacred ceremony with the most important person in our life. And that will take us to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I think then we're going to be fine. So, well, let's get started. I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. Let's see what kids have to say. When asked, what is love? James, 5 years old, says, love is better than liking someone. You want to be around them all the time. And Amy, who's 6, says, love means doing nice things for someone, even if they don't find out you did it. And Sam says, love makes you feel happy. And when asked, how do you know someone loves you? Evan said, he's 7, my dog Ruby loves me a lot. She licks my face every morning to wake me up. And Sophia, who is 5, says, I know my mom loves me because she cooks my favorite food on my birthday. And Isaiah 6 says, My brother says Lizzie loves me because she chases me around the slide at recess. I don't think she does. She just wants to be as fast as me. And when asked, do you love anyone? Isabella, who's 8, says, I love my mom and my dad. I love my brother too, most of the time. And Luke, who's 6, said, I love my girlfriend. She's really pretty. And finally, how do you let them know you love them? Isaiah, who's 6, says, I made my bed this morning so that my mom didn't have to. Oh, it's very sweet. And Evan, who is 7, says, I give kisses, not like my dog, like a person. So that's how he lets people know that he loves them. Love. It's such a wonderful, wonderful topic. So Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, towards the end of his life, in 1958, he reached out to Elaine St. John's, and he told her, who was a personal friend and a journalist, he told her that, I think it is the time that I better ask someone to write things down that are important to me, so once I shuffle off this mortal coil, she said, is what he said, I am not being put on a pedestal and made into a deity, and also that I'm not vilified. I would like to set the record straight. And so over a period of a year, they met at his house, right there on 6th Street and Lorraine Boulevard, which is what's called a stately mansion. It's a red brick building that has 26 rooms. Oh, 26 rooms. Actually, the Institute acquired that building in 1954, and here we are at 1958. Hazel, Ernest Holmes' beloved wife, had made her transition. And whenever friends said, Ernest, don't you think it's time to maybe move into a little smaller space? He said, I will leave this house the way Hazel did, not on my own accord. And so he did. He remained in that house until he passed away in April of 1960. So these recordings from 1958, what is interesting that Dr. Ernest Holmes talks a lot about, that he hoped that he didn't give the impression that principle, that the law was more important than the presence, love. He said, I hope that it continues to be understood that it takes both. I'm going to just read this. God's work. I spoke as I saw of God's work. All's love, yet all is law. And then he added, if the purity of truth is kept, the future is secure. We have been working for years with law, but the truth is that without love, law is incomplete, for the two are one. For the two are one. And then he goes on talking about an incident where he ran into a student one evening when he was over at the Institute of Religious Science. And the student that he engaged in a conversation with was a little dismayed. He didn't feel like his healing work in the world, the manifestation weren't coming forth quite as powerfully as he thought they should. And so Dr. Ernest Holmes leaned in and told him that when you climb a mountain, you're not getting angry at the first beginning slopes, but rather you understand that you have to walk through these slopes in order to reach the pinnacle, to reach the mountaintop. And then he said, at all times on this journey, you are invited to lean into the greatest healing power of all, love. Love. And so often, Dr. Ernest Holmes talked about that, yes, we can learn our wonderful tools that we have in Science of Mind, the spiritual mind treatment, the way of walking through our affirmative prayer. And yet, at the end of the day, what really matters is the love that we court, the beloved. That part within us, that part within each and every person that is of the Most High. Love. Now, it's interesting, in the English language, we have one word that we proclaim our love for another and how we feel about ketchup. Right? I love ketchup. It's interesting to me. It's just one word. And so we turn to the ancient Greek philosophers who had 8 words for love. And we're going to walk our way through it today because I think it provides a wonderful foundation to understand how we can approach this feeling, this experience in different ways, and that we don't fall prey to think there's only one particular way how love shows up. Are we ready for a little walking with the Greek goddesses and gods? And yes, great. So let's start with Eros. Now, Eros is the romantic or sexual love. That is probably what is being mostly celebrated on a day like today. That is what Hollywood tells us is, that what we should yearn for. And yet, what is interesting, that Eros, the god Eros, was created by Ares, the god of war, and Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and youthfulness. So those two came together and created Eros. Now, think about that for a moment, just the heritage, right? The god of war bringing forth this, the god of passion and romantic and sexual love. And that is how he's often depicted with Eros. And this love, this quality, this facet of love is passionate, it's fast, it's furious, and it's like fireworks, right? It's the love that is like fireworks, that is incredible to experience, and then it has a tendency to be done and over with fast. Did you know that Eros has 2 different arrows that he is shooting with? He has one that's the golden one. That's what we hear often about. That's the one that if it hits anybody, they fall in love with that person that is close by. He also has darker arrows, and those are the arrows of indifference. When one gets hit with those, it is said that no matter what, their heart cannot experience the type of love that they are looking for from this other person. Yeah. Now, we all have experienced this intense kind of love. I know we have. And what often happens, we look back at it and we look at the ending of that love, if it has in fact come to an end, and we have all kinds of feelings about that part. But for our conversation today, it's important to just take a moment and connect with that beginning, with those fireworks, however it ended up. and allow yourself to feel it, and also allow yourself to notice if there is some perhaps forgiveness work that wants to take place, or perhaps compassion for that younger self that we were when we experienced that. Eros. And that brings us to the next love. And this is interesting. Philia was much higher valued by the Greek wisdom seekers than Eros was. And Philia is this feeling of being part of a team, of a group of beloveds. It can be said that what we experience here at the New Vision Center is that type of love, to know this is where I belong. This is where I give and receive love freely, easily, effortlessly. And it brings us to the next kind, and that's storge. I believe it is pronounced that way. And that is a familiar love. It's a love that is reserved for within families. The love that a mother feels just looking at her child. The love that is passed on easily within close, deep friendships. It is also the love, the unconditional love that dog owner experience when they are in connection with their dog. Because you see, love in all its forms has healing qualities. And so if there is a beloved dog or cat or other animal in your life, allow your eyes to close and just allow that warmth to rise up within you that you feel when you're connecting to it. And next, we're going to look at ludus. Ludus is the love that is playful and easy and joyful. We have a wonderful picture that shows it, right? That is the ease and fun part, the flirtatious, those things that happen often at the beginning of relationships. And it comes really with the invitation to keep it going, however long a relationship lasts, to have an aspect of joyous exchange of love in it. And I know we have several beloveds in our community who are engaging in that type of joyous exchange of love. The next love that we learn about is mania. Now, this is kind of like the shadow side of love. This is the love that has taken on a lot of jealousy, a lot of ownership of the other person, of oppression. And it is something that I was just having lunch with a friend the other day, and we talked about that we have experienced, a love that kind of went sideways. And we were talking about what can this teach us about love? And what we came up with, and I think it's so important, is that it brings forth an invitation to forgive. To forgive. Not only the other person, but also ourselves. That we allowed that to take place. That we lost the connection to ourselves enough that another could have power over us. And so it is the invitation to forgiveness work. I think I skipped over a beautiful saying by Aristotle. I did, didn't I? This is what Aristotle said. What we need in order to live well is a proper appreciation of the way in which such goods as friendship, pleasure, virtue, honor, and wealth fit together as a whole. And notice it doesn't say love in there, but it talks about that friendship that we see in Philia and in storge. And that friendship, that enduring friendship of long-lasting relationships is called pragma. Pragma is beloveds that have walked with one another in a romantic relationship, in a familiar relationship, or in a friendship, and who have learned through tolerance, forgiveness, compassion for one another, to endure, to have been together for many, many years. And there's the picture. I love that picture. And all of this, all of these different types of loves bring us to the most important one, Philia. Now, Philia is the love of the self. Allow your hands to find your heart space, especially if you were waiting for something that talks about another. The most important love, the most important experience of that sacredness that we can experience is in the love of the self. Now, this is very, very important that one doesn't fall prey to thinking, oh, that is narcissistic. One thinks so important of themselves that they hold themselves up above all else. That is not that. See if you can feel the difference of approaching the self with a willingness to honor and be humbled by that relationship with the self. It takes a lot of self-compassion. It takes a lot of a willingness to be loving oneself. It is said that only if we are comfortable in our own skin, only if we are comfortable with who we are in the world, can we give the gift of love to another. I think it was Maya Angelou who said, I don't trust people who say they love me and I know they don't even love themselves. So that love of the self is what we are going to have a ceremony about today. The Buddha says it this way. The Buddha says, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Now, in many classes, in many sessions, I have sat down with individuals who have not yet discovered that love of the self, who might even feel that they don't deserve it. And I am here to tell you, any person, you are the one that deserves your own love, more than anybody in the world. And so I have asked for us to have a flower nearby, and I believe everybody in the sanctuary has one. I want to give a moment to all of you beloveds at home to find a flower. We had a couple of beloveds who sent in pictures when Jeff asked for pictures. I love them. We have sunflowers and roses and joyous expression. Find your flower. Find your flower and come into a place where it is safe to be quiet for a few minutes. And if you are with a beloved, wonderful. There will be a time at the end where we will give some extra space and we all will stand witness to you expressing your love to the other person. But first, we are going to engage in this expression of love of the self. And so we take a breath. If you're comfortable, allow your eyes to close. Feel into this now moment. Feel into right where you find yourself. Knowing that love is not something that can be expressed with words, and yet we are coming together to create an experience of feeling that which is beyond words. As we breathe in, we notice our shoulders are relaxing. There's nothing to be done. There's nothing to perform here. There's simply a willingness to be with that part of us that we sometimes forget. Place of the Most High, the place that is called the Self. Perhaps you use higher wisdom self to describe that place within you. And so we're just breathing in, allowing this moment to be important. Allowing this moment to be all that it has to be. If we have a flower, if we couldn't locate one and reached out for a plant, allowing it to be perfect the way it is. And so in a moment, I'm going to offer a vow that I ask you to repeat. And I ask you to place your name into it when I say Karen. Allow your eyes to remain closed. As you say to yourself, I, Karen, promise to love and cherish and honor you, Karen. Through all the days of our life. I give this flower to you as a token of my love and appreciation. I am here. I love you. And I invite you to receive this token of love with the sincerity with which it was given. Recognizing that this truly is the most important relationship we ever enter into. It is the most important love. And we will remain in this space as we give a couple of minutes to those beloveds who want to exchange a flower or a token of appreciation with a beloved. And we just listen to the music, to the beautiful music, and we feel that that declaration of love is uplifting all of us. Allow a smile to form not only on our lips, but in our entire being. Gratefulness for the love that we have been given and for the love that we have been receiving. Thank you, life. And so it is. And so as we gently make the way back into our space, for those beloveds who are here in the sanctuary, into the sanctuary for those beloveds where you are in your living room or wherever you are, I invite you to take that feeling of love with you. Throughout this week, the invitation is to look for love, and perhaps to use these wonderful words and ways of looking at love from the Greek wisdom seekers and gurus, and ask yourself, oh, what kind of love is this that I am sharing with this person? For we are all students of love. And so we thank the ancient Greeks because they have been our teacher here today. And as we have learned these different types of love, I just offer these quick statements. Stay away from mania, yes. And don't just seek eros, it usually ends badly. Cultivate philia by spending more time with your friends and family, and some frivolity in your life is very helpful every now and then. Seek pragma for long-lasting relationships, and include in storge your maternal and paternal instincts. And for any lonely souls, bring a dog into your life. And most of all, practice Philia to stay away from stress, anxiety, and depression. And that all of that brings us to the universal love, which we will be talking about next week, which is, of course, agape. But now we do what we do best, and we anchor all of this in prayer. So I invite all the practitioners and ministers of this teaching to please rise. Hold this space with me, this space that has been filled so beautifully with the realization that there truly are no words to express love, that it is an energy that is to be felt. And so we gratefully step into this container of love that has been created here. As we come together daily to reveal the power of love by means of words and deeds and action. How grateful I am for all of the prayer requests, for all of the words of affirmation that are being bestowed upon this community, so that we can each of us imbued it with love and send it back out into the world. How grateful I am to know this to be the truth, that God is love and love is God, and that each and everyone is invited to live from that place within. And so there's nothing more to do but to place this word into universal law, the law that always says yes. Yes, my beloved. It is so, it is done. And together we anchor this truth as we say, so it is.